Nela, Passionate Creative, and in today's video I wanted to talk about how art journaling can help with releasing perfectionist tendencies. So I've been meaning to do this video for a long time, and it was never the right time, and then I just said, screw it, today's the day, I'm doing it, and I have my bad hair day, and nothing is perfect, which is great for today's topic. So, before I start, I just want to make clear, about the terms I'm going to use. So, what's the difference between a sketchbook / art journal / creative journal / visual journal? For purposes of today's video, they're all the same. So, this is a sketchbook / art journal / visual journal, whatever you want to use it, whatever you want to call it. The main point is that there are some visual things going on in this sketchbook or art journal, and whatever you want to use it for, that's okay. I use the term sketchbooks a lot because that's what I started calling it, before I even knew what art journaling was. Next, I want to talk about perfectionism and why would you want to release perfectionism at all. So, first of all, perfectionism is a personality trait that some people do have, some people don't have, and, there's a continuum in between of, you can have a little bit of perfectionism in you in some areas, and in others you don't. So, usually we associate perfectionism with positive qualities, like a person who's a perfectionist has high quality standards, they are not putting out junk, they can be trusted with other people's projects, they're going to do a good job. So this is all good. And, when we say, I'm a perfectionist, we do it like, we wear a badge of honor, I'm a perfectionist. This also has some bad sides, which is perfectionism often stifles creativity. And perfectionism can make creating really stressful. And one of the reasons is because since we have those high standards and because we don't want to put out junk, we censor ourselves and we fear failure more so than other people. And if we have expectations of how it's going to turn out, like this is how it's going to turn out, and if it doesn't turn out like this, it's not good at all. So we tend to call some works of ours failures, even though they might have turned out quite alright, but it's just not the same as we imagined them. So we are disappointed with ourselves. And we sort of get tense when we have to do something creative or do anything that requires some intellectual effort. So basically, perfectionism makes creating any type of art less enjoyable than it can be, which is a shame because art is the one area of life where we can really be free and ourselves and not worry and make mistakes and all of that. But when you're a perfectionist, that's simply not true for you. You don't feel it. You don't feel like you can be free. You have to perform well because it's either that or it's not worth doing. So why are some people perfectionists and some people are not? I'm not a psychologist, but based on my personal experience, these things tend to happen very early in your childhood. And in my case, I was raised as a perfectionist because my family is mostly perfectionists. So we had high standards of behavior, high expectations from school performance and so on. So basically, I was raised to be a high achiever, and good grades, made good. This meant that good stuff are going to happen. My parents were happy. I would be allowed to play how long I wanted, and so on. And bad grades, then my parents would not be happy. I would probably have some form of punishment. Like you can't go play outside or so. So basically, I was taught very early that success is great, failure is not acceptable, like it's bad, and I internalized this story. So for me, even when I grow up and when I was no longer required to perform for other people, I have this inside, this inner critic, as they like to call it, that constantly nags you, like, this is not good enough, this is never good enough, you're a failure, you should be ashamed of yourself. So this is a story that we keep running long after we've been out of our parents' homes and out of school, so it just goes on and on, which is such a shame. It cannot be easily fixed because it took years to make you this way, and it will take years to release this, but it's definitely worth doing, and I call myself a recovering perfectionist. I'm still not like completely out, but I saw some progress, and I'm really happy with how it's working, so I want to share some of my tools and techniques with you so you can have this, you can see this progress in yourself as well. So there are some reasons why having a sketchbook or an art journal is beneficial, and I describe many of those reasons in another post of mine called Why I Think Every Visual Creative Should Have a Sketchbook. The link is below, so go check it out. I'm sure you're going to find it very useful. And one of the reasons I mentioned is that sketchbooks are private, or at least you can make them private. So there's sort of this safe space where you can express yourself without fearing other people's judgment. And of course, it's not just our other people's judgment that we're worried about, because as I mentioned, we have this internalized system that tells you all the time you're not good enough, this is crap. But of course, when you put other people's expectations on top, it just makes it all the harder. So if you just erase one part of the equation, which is other people, you have just yourself to work with, which is basically the only thing that you can change in your life, your own reactions, your own thoughts, your own emotions. So having this safe containment space is very beneficial because you can practice with yourself. And the way you practice is you just allow yourself to experiment, you allow yourself to make mistakes, and you start to reframe mistakes in your head like, okay, so this didn't work, but the next time I'm going to know what not to do and what to do better. So every mistake is a learning experience, and sort of change your inner dialogue or monologue to something that will work in your favor. And why sketchbooks being private is important is that you feel safe to do it. So if you fear that other people are going to see your failures, then this is not going to work as well. And the one thing I want to say is that you are allowed to keep things private. For example, if someone asks you, can I see what you're doing? Can I flip through? You're allowed to say no. You don't have to feel like a bitch because you said no to someone. Like, you're completely allowed. Even if you're doing it in public. Like, if you're sketching in a coffee shop and a waiter comes to you and says, oh, can I see it? You're allowed to say no. No. Which is also probably very difficult for some of us, but you are allowed. I give you permission to say no. Like, people do this all the time. I do this all the time. I just say, I'm sorry, there are a lot of personal stuff inside, so I don't really feel comfortable sharing, but, I just open some spread where there's something, that I would like them to see or that I'm comfortable with them seeing, so I just show, okay, so this is what my art looks like, but, I simply don't let them handle my sketchbook. Like, if someone takes my sketchbook in their hands, I'm like, and I just, snatched it. So you're okay with that. Another thing that is really important is that you take your time with experimenting with different mediums. For example, a lot of times you're going to see other people's art journals and sketchbooks, and they're like full of collage and layers and stamps and whatever. I mean, I don't even have all these tools, so I don't know what they're using, but it looks very textured and rich, and it's just, I can't do that. Well, guess what? You don't have to do that. Your art journal pages can look whatever you want. You can use any tool that you're usually using. If you like collage, that's great. If you don't like collage, you don't ever have to use collage, and I don't ever use collage. If you want to do all your pages in ballpoint pen, that's cool. I did some entire sketchbooks only in ballpoint pen, and I think ballpoint pen is great. So just use the tools that you're accustomed with and play with them. Because if you start doing too much new things at once, it will probably freak you out, and you'll just say, oh, hell no, this is not good for me. So just let yourself first, express yourself with the tools that you are comfortable with, and then after a while you can start introducing something else. So for example, after a while of working with my usual mediums, which were, ballpoint pens, ink, and colored pencils, I started using watercolor, and watercolor was very difficult, but then I started loving it. And then later I introduced soft pastels, which I never used before, and it started being very fun because I could use, my fingers to put pigments on the page, and that was really fun. But it didn't come, it took me years to get to this point, and now I even started doing some, some gouache paint, which is on the verge of what you see with this mixed media journal pieces, but it's still not, that, and I'm good with it. I'm good with that. My art journal pages look however they look. You don't have to strive to achieve something that other people are doing, because rest assured, a lot of things that people do, you just don't see because they don't share them. And this is why, being comfortable with having this private space for yourself is very important. And if you want to share something, you're free to share something. Like if you're really proud of something you did, then by all means do share it with other people. But you're not obliged to do that. So I want to introduce you to some exercises that you might do that are sort of designed to shake you out of your, perfectionist mentality. And they're going to be a challenge. So I'm going to show you something that I did that was accidental. I did not design it as a practice. It just happened on its own. But I realized, there's some value to that. So this exercise was, let's name it, ruin your drawing, because this is what happens essentially. So I started with one drawing that was done in ink and watercolor, and it was supposed to be a nice drawing. There's this sheep skull and this rose, and it was supposed to be really fancy, and then I accidentally spilled ink over it. And as you may know, you can't erase ink, and there was no way to remove it from this page, so I decided to just, oh heck, I'll work with it. Now, I was pissed. I was like seriously angry that this happened, because I imagined in my head, this beautiful drawing, and now the vision was ruined. And what to do? Well, I took my angst out on the page, and I basically decided to just spill even more ink over it and, work with that. Now, people who see this for the first time, they don't know what I wanted to do with it, so it's kind of, cool. Well, it was not cool to me, but it was a very interesting experiment, very interesting exercise in perfectionism, because then you see all of this strength of your, stress response and whatever goes in your head when you're trying so hard to do something right. So personally, I would advise this to anyone, to just try it, to ruin a page. You start doing something that is intended to look good, and then halfway you just spill paint over it or just scribble across it, and it's going to be painful to do that. It's going to feel so uncomfortable. But discomfort is where you're pushing your comfort zone, the boundaries of your comfort zone outwards. So I think it's very helpful to do something like that. So another exercise you can do is you can start with sort of a scribble or a splash of paint or something abstract, and then you can start working from that. So that's sort of like a different take. With the first exercise, you start doing something that you want to be doing, and then you just ruin it halfway. And here you start with something that's, ruined from the start, and you just keep working with that. So you can also try that, do something like, a Rorschach stain, and just see what you can do with that. It's very interesting. So, of course, you don't have to do this often. It's not like something you have to do every day. Perhaps you can do just once a month or a couple of times a year, just to feel how this feels to you, and to, be with those emotions that are going to rise up, and, just see what they're like. And so you can see on this example what being you is like whenever you're faced with something that's not going the way you want. Because usually you're so consumed with what you're doing that you don't even notice what goes on within you. And then when you do an exercise designed on purpose to, make all these thoughts and emotions conscious, then you can see what really goes on in your head, and it's very, very illuminating. I would suggest this to everyone. So, I hope you found this video useful. If you already don't have a sketchbook or an art journal, I hope by now you're at least considering it. Check out the other blog posts and videos, so for even more information why having a sketchbook or an art journal would be beneficial. And I hope to see you on my blog, my website, and I also have a special gift for you, which is a free PDF that you can download from my website, neladunato.com. So just go and sign up on this little box where it says get my free ebook, and it will help you to be even more creative in your daily life, to have even more brilliant ideas, and to take action on them. So, I hope you enjoy your day, and we'll see you soon.